wanted to make a video on my work history. Um, so, starting from when I was like 17, I guess, because I dropped out of high school and I got my GED. And I started working at a little restaurant called Azariah's in Yanceyville, North Carolina. And it was okay. Um, I was basically just there to wash dishes. That was about it. And um, I eventually ended up getting fired from that place for, I guess, I think I like broke a mop or something, and the manager or the owner got mad. And then um, it was just bad luck, I guess. I had opened a door at a time when a waitress was standing there full of. She had plates in her hands, and like all the plates dropped, and he got really mad at me for that, and I got fired for it. So I think I worked there for maybe like 3 or 4 months. And then when I turned, I was attending college at the time, so I had gotten gotten my GED, and then I was attending college for basically they called it like a DEEP program, and it was basically like um, making 3D models in a program called Maya. You could really choose what you wanted to do, but it was like making 3D models in Maya and learning Photoshop, learning all of the Adobe apps. This was like back in like 2010. So I did that for a while. I never did graduate because when I turned 18, um, I was still living with my parents at the time, and I had gotten fired from my other job, which they were upset about, or from my first job, which they were upset about, and my mom forced me to get a job at a temp agency. I'm not gonna say a name, and I was working nights for some. It was a like I think it was an IKEA factory in Danville, Virginia, and I was working nights there, and I was trying to go to school at the same time, and I just couldn't do it. So I ended up um, dropping out of college. This was after I had gotten my GED, and just continued working nights at that factory for a while. And then under the same temp agency, I switched over to working at a flooring. They made like they 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 got pallets of, I guess, wood in, and I guess they would like cut the wood, and I was on like the very end of the process after everything was done, but made hardwood flooring, and I did that for a while, just stacking pallets of boxes um, full of wood. And eventually I quit there because they never hired me, so I quit. Also in 2012, when I was working at the factory that made hardwood flooring, do work on computers because I think around the age of like 14 or something, my dad started teaching me how to build computers. So I wanted to get A plus certified so I can maybe have a job in a place where they do computer repair. I was never able to, but that was my hope back then. Got a certification from an A plus certification from CompTIA. Only got it once. It only lasted then like 3 years or something. And I went to work for another company. I actually got hired on by them. I'm also not going to say their name. And they made furniture for IKEA. And for a while, I was like an upholsterer for furniture. This was like around 2013 when I started there. And, they had a job opening. I did like being an upholsterer then. They had a job opening for clerical work, so I applied for it and I got that. And I got to meet like a lot of cool people that were there in the office, and my boss there, she was pretty cool also. Um, and as like time went on, um, I worked there from like 2013 to 2021. So I was there for a good while. Um, and I was like my boss there was she was a cool person. She was a hardworking person. And she let me get away with a lot of shit. She was like very like lenient on her employees, and I feel like if it, you know, some of the things that I was going through at the time, if I didn't have her as a boss, then I definitely feel like that I probably would have not made it, I'm going to say. And uh, it's just, it's just nice when you have a boss that lets you, that knows that you're going through shit and is like, you know, she took that into account when she was assigning people work. She did that for all of her employees. So I was under her from like 2014 until the time that I quit. And this was also probably around the time when like a few years back. Well, I'm just going to talk about work history, but yeah, I was going through a lot of shit at that time, and I wish I I kind of wish that when I worked there, I dressed like how I dress now on some days. I feel like I would have felt a lot better, but I didn't. And I didn't do it because of the company that I worked for. I did it because the city that I worked in had like a Dixie flag, and I didn't really feel comfortable working in that city. Even though I spent over a decade there, I was just there because I needed work, I needed money, and that was a place that gave me a job, but I never felt that comfortable being there. Past video, but also because of the religion I was in at the time, it did not allow it. Um, but I mean, the people that I worked with in the office, besides like one manager that was a dick and an asshole to everyone, you know, people there were like pretty pretty chill. I feel like. So I quit there in 2021. I should also talk about what my positions were as when I did clerical work. Um, so when I got the first position, I was like a clerk in the office to sign in and out drivers. And then I became, was like I think it was um, when I got promoted after that. Um, oh, also, before I got promoted, I had to like send fax paperwork to, if items were going over a border, I had to fax paperwork, and I had to communicate with um, other with customers for what trucks were going where, and I had to make sure that the items that were loaded on the trucks by the loaders were the correct items, and that the paperwork that was going with the driver of that truck was the correct paperwork. Because if it wasn't, it was not a good day. And when I got promoted, I think I was called like a shipping clerk then. When I got promoted, the position was logistics clerk. And I was kind of, what was it? I had to learn a new program, um, aside from the Microsoft suite, but I had to learn a new program, and I had to help the coordinator um, basically book trucks and see like what different IKEA stores needed, and have those items go out to that location. And um, then later on, probably maybe like, I guess being a clerk, maybe I was a clerk for like being a shipping clerk, maybe I was shipping clerk for like 2 years, and then I was a logistics clerk, I think, for like 3 years, and then for 2 years after that, I was promoted to logistics specialist, which that job, my boss worked with me a lot, but that job was a lot for me. And um, we had to go to like, I had to go to like meetings, and I got to meet, um, a lot of a lot more people that way. But I I had to go to meetings. I had to make this like, or I had to help my boss make this like huge spreadsheet for the year of like what kind of stuff we the company needed to make the products that the customer wanted. And I had to also book trucks, and if someone called out of work, then I also had to do their job. Like if a shipping clerk had like called out of work, then I also had to do their job at the time. Some days it was, slow, depending on what time of year it was, and then other times it was just crazy for like months. Um, but those are basically the things that I did in that position. And like all three positions, like I had to like send emails out and stuff, and um, communicate, with a customer, or communicate with some other department in the company. I did get to learn a lot while I was there. I had a really cool coworker. He was kind of also my boss just from being there so long. And um, he helped me do a lot of stuff too. He was a fun guy to have as a coworker, and he was a pretty reasonable coworker too. And um, I got to meet a lot of different people from having different drivers come in from all over um, the uh, the country and from like Canada too. Um, so yeah, I you know my experience there was pretty positive. I would say when I had that position. I had like a really good boss at the time, and I saw that, but I was going through so much shit then that um, I feel like I never got to express like good appreciation to her about that. And I mean, and sometimes like I did like I don't know. I've never been in a manager position, but it sometimes like I did feel like that I did like call her crazy sometimes because she was on she would call me on the phone so much, and just like hearing the phone ring gives me anxiety, and it still does. Like hearing my cell phone ring like still gives me anxiety, and I don't like it, but it's just how it is. But it just having everything I was going through back then, and I don't know. I feel like that hearing the phone ring as much as I did, and it's not her. It wasn't her fault, and like none of it was her fault, and she was genuinely trying to help her employees as best as she could, and she took a lot of work, or she had a lot of work on her shoulders too. But just feeling just hearing the phone ring constantly just made my anxiety so much worse. I was getting therapy, and I don't think I had started taking medications yet, but later on, while I was still working there, I did start on medication, but it didn't really do much for me. And I had ended my therapy. I just didn't go back. Um, and I mean, just just something about I want to say it was probably me concentrating on something that I was doing, and then hearing the phone ring and have to break that concentration and answer the phone and work on, maybe stop what I'm doing and work on like other things, because like having what I was doing or having work interrupted like made my anxiety spike, because I felt like that what I was doing If I had to stop it, then I wasn't going to do as good of a job on it, or I was going to forget something. Um, and that worry um, was annoying to me, and it got to me a lot of times. Um, and later on, like, I tried to really, you know, let that go, and it just, if I get cut off from something, then it's whatever. But having like to break concentration from something really annoyed me for some reason, and it just made my anxiety worse. Being at a younger age, my parents never cared about mental health, so I grew up not caring about mental health as well, and that that affected me negatively. Um, and you know, there were some days when I really wish that I was like nicer to my boss back then, because she was really a nice lady. She was an extraordinary person, and she worked her ass off constantly, and um, she helped a lot of us, do our work. And if like you didn't really know something, she would take the time to like sit there and explain it and like teach it to you. Um, and you know, that was that was a good experience for me, I want to say. Um, I just had a lot of shit affect me back then that isn't here now. And um I did quit in 2021, and I went back for a short time in 2022, and I had a different boss this time, and I didn't it wasn't my boss that I didn't like, but there was a manager that I had to work under that I didn't really like. And I mean, I just decided to quit from there. Like, I just walked out because I wasn't happy. Um, and I I started looking for work in my state, but the second time that I went back, I wasn't happy there. I don't think I no I didn't. I did not like complete my like 90 day probation period there. I think I've like put my badge the in the manager's backpack, and I just walked out. I was just done because um I was in like the first time I was there, I was in an office, and it wasn't out in the open. And I had to, I mean, being like a shipping clerk, because I have social anxiety, and having to, you know, do do a task for a driver short, and it would be like you know, like a one-on-one thing. And there were a few people in the office that were always there. And I would have to talk to them about different things during the day. But the second time I was there, they put me out in this like open floor. It was still like a clerical position, but they put me out in like the open floor, and there were like forklifts, constantly going back and forth. I wasn't in like an office, and just, I don't know, I just couldn't handle it. And um, for some reason or another, I don't know why, but the second time I was there, like, I remember these, like, I mean, they were also, you know, my coworkers on the floor, but somehow or another, they had gotten wind that going to, uh, I was going to, or I was leaving, um, my, or I was leaving the what I call a cult, the Jehovah's Witness organization, and for some reason or another, they didn't really seem to like that, and they all like wanted to talk to me about it for one reason or another, and they seem to have wanted me to like stay in a Christian based religion, which I did not want to do. And they didn't, you know, they it just seemed like that if I would have stayed there would have been problems later on. So, and just the anxiety of being out and like in like open floor and working in that city. I worked there for so many years, but at the same time, I did not want to be in that city. So I just decided, you know, this isn't what I want, and I got up and I left. Um, and for I still can't figure it out, like why those people came up and talked to me. Um, they seemed like they were really. It seemed like a grab for control in one way, or and they like they wanted, like, before I did anything, they wanted to like discourage me from doing it for some reason. Um, why? I don't know. Um, but I no longer, you know, I no longer go there, and um, I don't see any of them anymore, so it doesn't matter. Um, but yeah, that second time around was really fucking weird. Um, yeah, and I um, I try to um, kind of like do my own thing on a it's like it was like an odd job app, and I did that for like 6 months, and I I stopped doing that because gas was super expensive, um, and I didn't feel like that the money that I made from that app was like enough to keep up with what I was like where I was driving to, because I would drive like long distances sometimes and only get like $50 or $60 for the day, and I spent the majority of my time driving, and I didn't really like it. So I stopped doing that, and then I went back to um, Danville, Virginia, and I found a job at a logistics company. Um, and I um, helped organize like pallets. I basically made sure that whatever pallets were there that needed to go onto the truck to the place, I made sure that the loaders knew that that's what they had to do. And um, actually, she actually got a forklift license for a short time that I was there, and I loaded some trucks myself, and I was able to organize some pallets in that warehouse, which was kind of fun because I've never driven a forklift before. Um, but I ended up quitting there too because, like I said, I just didn't feel comfortable in that area. And I started looking for work in uh, North Carolina, where I live. I found work through another temp agency, and they sent me to a place that I guess made radiators, and I was assigned to be a radiator tester. And uh, what they would do is they would uh, hook the radiators because they were fucking huge. They would hook the radiators onto a chain, and the chain was connected to a crane. You would lift the crane up, you would put it in I guess, a batch, or like a huge tub of water. You would submerge the radiator, and if there were any like leaks in it, you would identify the leaks and then uh, take them, tell them that they're no good, or if they're good, then send them on their way. That job was pretty good too. Um, I also ended up quitting that job. I think I worked second shift. That was like one of my first second shift jobs, and I kind of liked it a little bit. Like, I liked the schedule of it. But I didn't feel like I didn't like the pay of the place, and um, I just ended up quitting. And I found work through another temp agency, and I got to work in this was 2022. um, I I got to work at it was like a factory that made moldings from like hot plastic. So like the plastic would like come out of this huge machine, or out of this huge pipe, and it would flow into a mold, and you would just see like steam coming out from the heat. And then when you got the part, like, you had to wear these like special gloves, and the parts were pretty heavy, and you had to like carve out the extra plastic that was on it and make sure the part was okay. Um, and it got to the point where I couldn't keep up anymore because my shoulder was hurting me a lot, and I just couldn't keep up with workflow on some of the machines. So they didn't like, they didn't like tell me that I was going to get fired or anything, but I didn't feel like, I enjoyed working there, and I enjoyed like the atmosphere. The people were like pretty cool, and I ended up quitting because my shoulder was hurting and it was hard to like um, carry the or pull the parts down because some of the parts are like this wide. Like some of them were like parts that would go over like golf carts and stuff, like roofs for like golf carts. And um, I've had 12-hour shifts there, so you would go in at like I think I went in at like 8 at night or something, and I would get off at 8 in the morning, which I didn't mind. I like working night shift, and the pay was okay. It was pretty far away from where I lived, but it's really hard to find jobs where I live at because I just live in a complete rural area. Like there's not much around me. Um, so I ended up quitting there. Also for the job that I had, um, for the like making the plastic molds for stuff. I want to say I worked there around maybe October of 2022 to like April of no, March of 2023 was when I ended up quitting. It was like I did that all that time for like 12 hours a day, and I had never worked 12-hour shifts before. Um, but working 12-hour shifts is fucking exhausting. Like, I want to say I was probably gone from my house for probably around 15 to 16 hours a day because just to like the commute to the place was around an hour, and um an hour back to get back home. And if I needed to like stop and get whatever for food. But yeah, I was gone for like a pretty long ass time from the house then, and I didn't really have much time to do anything else. Um, but it was a nice distraction from things that I was going through, I guess, and it was really fucking hard work, and it was constantly hot. Like even in like the wintertime, I mean, I still wore like a hoodie in there and stuff in the wintertime because it gets pretty cold in North Carolina in the wintertime. But um, when you're like there standing next to a machine that's like has molten plastic coming out of it, it's really hot. Uh, and I guess um, like I got to train a few people there, and um, I think I think at one point like I got to see like actual engineers work because they had like an engineer on the site, and I'd never seen like an engineer do anything. Engineers are amazing people to me. Um, but yeah, that was basically um, what I did there. And just know, if you've never worked a 12-hour shift, I don't really care. Like, I don't think it matters like what you're doing, but I feel like any job, if you're going to work a 12-hour shift, it's going to exhaust you completely because that's a fucking long ass time to be working. Of course, I think we got like 3 breaks or something um, throughout the shift, but still, being on your feet for that long during a day, it is fucking exhausting. And I didn't really have like much money back back then either. And I remember like working a 12-hour shift, and like the only thing that I ate that night, because I didn't have much money, and I couldn't afford to like buy any food um that 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 day. And I would spend so much time sleeping too, so eating food was difficult also, because you spend 12 hours. I spent 12 hours working. I spent 2 hours driving. I had to make sure that I ate, because sometimes I would just want to come home and just go to sleep, like I didn't want to eat. I would be so tired that I did not want to eat. But there were days when like all I would have to eat is like a bowl of ramen, and that was it. And I would go and work a 12-hour shift, and I couldn't like afford to get food. I couldn't afford to like go to any of the restaurants and buy food. So I just didn't. And that was very difficult. Um, but it is what it is. I'm happy I don't have to do it anymore. Um, but from, I guess, from like working from a temp agency type thing, it's like the most money I've ever been paid from a temp agency. Like I said, because I couldn't keep up, and I went back to the agency, and they gave me another um, they gave me another job, and this was at like a chicken factory, and this is where my back ended up getting hurt at. I worked there literally for, I want to say, like 4 or 5 days. I worked there. It was not even like a complete week, and I just ended up getting hurt, and I've been hurt ever since. I make videos right now, so um, doing YouTube, like I've done, I've made videos in the past of me playing with my friends online, and playing games online. And I've had like editing software before, and I've used it before. um, but I was never actually able to upload any of the videos, because I didn't have internet back then. I did not get internet, like broadband internet, until 2023. So a few of those videos, um, or actually all of those videos are gone. I think there was one video I uploaded to YouTube like back in 2015. No, 2018. I think I uploaded it because I was really big into Mario Maker 2, or maybe it's just Mario Maker. Um, one of them back then. And I was really big into playing like super expert levels, and I think I uploaded a video of just me playing that. And like I only uploaded one. I checked for it when I wanted to get back into YouTube, but that account had already been deleted. So um, yeah, that's pretty much my, like, everything that I did for making videos in the past. And doing this now, I like it. I like being able to like express myself online, and I like editing my videos. It's a I I don't you know I do stream most of the time, and most of the time when I make videos, I just turn on the camera and talk and upload it. But I have like edited a few of my videos and I do enjoy like the editing process. I want to get a better editor so I can make better videos in the future, but for right now I gotta stick with what I have. Um, yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for watching.